I want to describe something to you, and I want you to tell me quietly to yourself whether this is accurate. You wake up in the morning and your first thought is, I am already tired. Not the healthy kind of tired that coffee fixes, a different kind. A heaviness that sits below the surface of the day before the day has even started. You have a thyroid condition. You may be on medication. Your doctor is, in their words, satisfied with your numbers. And yet, the 3 p.m. crash that no amount of sleep prevents. The hair on the shower floor. The brain fog that makes a simple sentence feel like translating from a foreign language. The weight that does not respond to anything you do, the cold that other people in the room do not feel, the skin that has changed in texture, the eyebrows that have quietly started to thin, and underneath all of that, something that is harder to name than any of the physical symptoms. A feeling that your body is no longer yours, that you live in a house that has stopped cooperating with you, that you used to be someone who moved through world with energy, with agency, and now you are negotiating with yourself just to get through the afternoon. You have probably also been told more than once in more than one form that you just need to reduce your stress. As if you had not thought of that, as if stress is something you can simply set down like a bag by the door. They said, just reduce your stress. As if I don't know that. You know, of course you know. The problem is that nobody has told you what the stress is actually doing inside your body. And nobody has told you what you call stress might not be stress at all, but something much more specific with a much more specific address in the body. And that is what this episode is. Welcome back to the SOMASHADOW podcast. I am Abhinav Sharma. Episode 2, the thyroid. The thyroid is not the problem. The thyroid is the messenger. This episode is a reading lesson. The thyroid is a small butterfly-shaped gland at the base of your throat. I want you to hold that image, butterfly-shaped at the throat. It matters. We'll come back to it. Chances are you already knew it. Its job is to regulate virtually every metabolic process in the body. Energy production at the cellular level, body temperature, heart rate, digestion, the menstrual cycle, mood, hair growth, weight, cognition, everything. Now, when it is working as it should, you do not think about it. But when it's not, you feel everything all the time in every system. Now, thyroid disorders have more than doubled globally in the last 30 years. In India, roughly 1 in 10 adults have some form of thyroid dysfunction, and women are diagnosed at 7 to 10 times the rate of men. Now, that is not a genetic change. Genetics do not shift at that speed. That is a life change. Something about how we are living, and particularly something about how women are. It is producing a systemic disruption of the gland that sits at the throat. The medical answer to why women are disproportionately affected is estrogen. That is a real mechanism. Estrogen does influence thyroid function, but it is not the most interesting answer. The most interesting answer is that the conditions which produce thyroid disease are more commonly present in female lives. The long-term suppression of voice, the organization of the self year after year around the needs of everyone except the self. The emotional labor that is invisible, unacknowledged, and never-ending. And the no that was swallowed so many times it became reflex, and then physiology. Now, men develop thyroid disease too. The pattern is the same. The social permission to suppress voice is simply more universal and more intense in female experience. And that is why the numbers are higher. Not estrogen alone, the life inside the estrogen. Now, we already spoke about that the thyroid sits at the throat, and the throat is the site of expression of what gets said and what gets swallowed. In every independent system of somatic medicine, that has mapped the body. The throat carries meaning that I'm not asking you to take that on faith. I'm asking you to notice it as a consistent observation across independent traditions and to hold it as a question. Now, here are the 4 patterns that I have seen in the histories of people with thyroid conditions. Pattern 1, the most common, is the suppressed no. This is the person who was taught early that their no was too much, too inconvenient, or too difficult. The family could not hold it. And so the no, the healthy, necessary no, got swallowed for years, for decades. So I asked a woman in her late 30s, Hashimoto's, medication stable, still exhausted, when was the last time you said no to a family member and meant it? Answer, I honestly cannot remember. Now, the body registers the suppression of the no the same way it registers physical danger. The stress response runs, cortisol produces, year after year without discharge. The throat, sitting at the place where the no was supposed to come from, begins to struggle under the weight of what was never spoken. This is usually with women. Pattern 2, the performed is slightly different. This is the person who not only cannot say no, they perform enthusiastically for the things they have said yes to. This yes is not merely obligatory, it is performed as willing, as joyful, as completely fine. Because reluctance would be maybe yet another kind of danger. And the cost of this is double: the suppression of the no and the performance of its opposite. The thyroid is being asked to power a performance that is not true. For years, the body eventually presents the invoice. Pattern 3, the voice that was never welcomed. Now, this is the person whose opinions were not asked in childhood, whose presence was tolerated but whose life was not, who learned to be quiet not because speaking was punished but speaking up made no difference. And that is its own particular loneliness that eventually becomes a decision to stop trying. A client, 45-year-old corporate professional, subclinical hypothyroid, borderline numbers. He had always been the quiet one, the one who figured things out without making noise about it. I do not think I have ever in my life said what I actually thought in a family conversation. Not once. Not my words, his. The body had been saying it for him at the organ of the voice in the only language it had left. Coming to pattern 4, the truth that was swallowed. There is a truth, sometimes about maybe a relationship, sometimes about a life choice, or about who the person actually is and what they actually want. That was not permitted. That would have cost too much to say, and so it was swallowed. Now, swallowed truths do not go away. They become the background hum of the inner life. The thing the person is almost always saying, the conversation that don't land, the sentence that starts and does not finish. I want to say something, but I don't know who would hear it. Or there's something I have never told anyone. The thyroid, sitting at the seat of that voice, of that swallowing, keeps the score. Coming to Hashimoto's. Hashimoto's thyroiditis needs its own section because it's not simply hypothyroid. It is the immune system attacking the thyroid, the body attacking the organ of the voice. Now, I'm not saying Hashimoto's is caused by not speaking your truth. Disease can be genetic, environmental triggers, microbiome, viral events, chance. I understand all of that. What I'm saying is that the pattern of self-attack at the site of voice consistent enough across enough histories, I've seen a pattern that it cannot be just a coincidence, and it warrants a question. Who taught you to attack yourself before anyone else could? Now, that question points to one of two places. The first is an early critical voice. A parent, usually fathers. A voice that established through repetition, through conditional love, that the self was the appropriate target. You are not quite right, not enough. What comes out of your mouth needs to be corrected before anyone else could correct it. And then when that voice is internalized, when it stops being theirs and become yours, the immune system gets a directive: attack the self. Starting with the place where the self was first told to be quiet. And the second is a sustained self-betrayal. A marriage entered for a wrong reasons and maintained. A life shaped entirely around someone else's needs until the person at the center of it disappears. So the immune system is not confused. It is doing exactly what the nervous system learned to do: attack the self. Now, the most useful tool I have for Hashimoto's is what we can call the timeline question. In the year or two before your antibodies spiked, or before you were first diagnosed, what were you not allowed to say? Or what truth was not expressed? The answers, when they come, are almost never dramatic. They are ordinary. A marriage that has become a performance, a workplace where the person has been systematically unheard, a family dynamic requiring daily pretending that everything is fine, that the arrangement is acceptable, that the person has no needs that matters. Ordinary, sustained, quiet self-abandonment. And the body keeps a score. I'll give 4 questions. You don't have to answer them immediately, but just mull over them over the coming days. Whose voice were you allowed to be growing up? Not whose voice you admire, not whose voice you wish you had, but whose voice were you actually permitted to be in your family of origin? Question 2. What have you been swallowing in the life you are living right now? Not historically, now. What's the thing you keep almost saying and then not saying? Question 3. What would you say if you knew nobody would be disappointed? Now, this question matters because most people with thyroid disease have internalized the restriction so completely that they no longer experience it as choice. The restriction feels like them. Now, this question creates a gap in that certainty. Use the gap. Coming to question 4. When did you last do something that was entirely, unapologetically just for you? Not for wellness, not to be a better mother or partner or employee. Something that served nothing except the fact that you wanted it. 3 things not to do. They can cause harm. Do not stop your medication. Nothing in this work replaces your endocrinologist or your medicine. The work sits under medical care. Please stay on a treatment plan. Do not use this to blame yourself. The pattern was not a character flaw, it was a survival strategy. A reasonable response to an early environment that did not permit the alternative. We are nowhere going to judge the pattern. We are here to understand it and slowly give the body a different option. Do not force forgiveness or letting go. It will arrive. It tends to arrive at the end of the work and not the beginning. You cannot accelerate it. So don't skip to it. Now, this week's question, the one you need to carry. Where in your body do you feel when you want to say something and decide not to? Put your hand there. You do not need to say anything yet. Just notice where the unsaid things live. And that is where we begin. And thank you for being here.